The purpose of tonight's meeting is a little bit different than most of the formats in that the idea is that besides having a chance to hear the candidates, the council candidates and the mayoral candidates, there will be an opportunity at the end for an informal meeting where you can sit down and talk to the candidate of your choice or all of them if you have the time. My name is Mike Young, and I live in Schroeder Creek, and I think that's the reason why I was asked to be here, because they knew that, I didn't know what was going on here. It was such a long way away. The other thing is that they probably figured out that anybody who would live in Schroeder Creek and not have brains enough to move to Kaslo is probably not going to cause too much trouble. So. The agenda for the meeting will be to ask first for the council candidates to take 5 minutes to address you individually. And at the end of those talks, then we will take 2 questions from the floor that will be addressed to all of the candidates, please, so they can each have a chance to respond. When that is done, we will then ask for the 3 mayoral candidates to give a 5-minute talk, and they also will then take 2 questions from the floor that all 3 candidates will answer. Then when that process is complete, then we will take a very short break while we rearrange the room, and the candidates will take some tables, and then you'll have a chance to sit down and talk with them and question them. And so I guess the whole thing for tonight is to bring a sharp mind and a civil tongue to all of us. Remember that we are not in a debate, we are in a very important meeting here to express ideas, to get to know each other, to understand what the priorities are, and hopefully you will go away with a better idea of the candidates of your choice. We did have one of the council candidates is not going to be here tonight, Dave Collier. So we have 8 council members to give you an address in alphabetical order. And so let us begin. The first is John Addison. The microphone.
All right.
I have to turn it on, John.
So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is John Addison, and I'm running for Kaslo Council. My wife, Rhonda, and I have lived in Kaslo for the past 19 years, where we have raised our family. Over the last 5 years, as my field working career winds down, I have taken a keen interest in giving back to my community through volunteer service. I've been on the KIN and the Community Forest boards, and now I serve on the Chamber and Logger Sports boards. I cannot stress enough the importance of being a team player. I have always believed that whether in my personal or business life, honesty and integrity are vital to the responsibilities of team play. I am running for council because I believe that to achieve any concrete goals and objectives, council needs to work together as a team with the goal of achieving the best possible outcome. If elected, through good planning, thorough preparation, and a determination for getting the job done, I will work with my co-workers to add my complementary skills while generating synergy with my colleagues. Not only to determine the best course of action, but also focus on a progressive and determined outcome for the village and its community members. If elected, my goals over the next 4 years would focus upon a measured amount of sustainable economic growth. Yes, this is an overused phrase and by itself doesn't mean much, but if combined with specific goals, it is a most powerful vision. My goals are to work with my fellow councillors to further the vision of the Kaslo Infonet to improve broadband throughout our community and area. I will work with team players to create a waterfront plan that encompasses the development and improvement of the entire village's waterfront. This will require significant public input. My involvement with the Kaslo and Area Chamber of Commerce has made me realize that Kaslo cannot survive just as a tourism-based economy. We have to diversify and encourage new businesses while assisting to retain the businesses we do have. Our community needs to work collaboratively with our neighboring communities through the West Kootenay Tourism Alliance to achieve prosperity together. I have co-led this process through the Chamber and look forward to encouraging a strong collaboration between Council and the Chamber to further this process. I will also work with Council to finding a solution to adequate healthcare coverage for our healthcare facilities. So thank you very much, and I look forward to talking with you personally at the tables afterwards. So come and share your ideas, and if elected, I will proudly serve our community to the best of my ability. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And the next councillor is Linda Beto.
Hi there. Thank you everyone for coming out tonight, and a big thank you to the Castle Hotel for sponsoring this event. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Linda Beto. My face is the one you see on the big sign on the fence just east of the bridge leading to Nelson. I want to thank everyone for not drawing a mustache on it. It happens to be my mother's favorite picture of me, so please, if you continue not to deface it, she just might get it for Christmas. So be serious now. By now, you're probably all sick of hearing that overworked term, economic sustainability, bandied about. As stated in my mail-out, this simply means that resources must be used efficiently in order to keep functioning and hopefully improve one's current condition. This principle applies to a household, a business, or to government. In the case of government, that is the primary job of any city or village council. There is only so much income in the form of taxes, transfer payments, and grants, versus all the expenses attributable to keeping the machine running and hopefully having enough in reserves to develop new infrastructures and maintain those we already have. It is a matter of balance, but a tricky one, because you can't satisfy the needs of everyone, no matter how hard you try and how much you want to. As citizens of the village, you can only hope for a council that will, on one hand, be diligent in handling your money, but not so limited in their thinking so as to hinder economic opportunities on the other. If elected to council, I would try to work as a team with other council members, prioritizing the jobs that need doing. Among them, working to reinstate 24/7 emergency care, helping to facilitate economic opportunities of value to Kaslo and its citizens as a whole. And finally, initiating a review of village accounts, including tax structure, exempted properties, and lease contracts to ensure first and foremost that all are in the best interests of the taxpayer. My husband happened to be downtown last week when a council member asked him how it's going. He joked and said, well, Linda knows more about liquid waste management than any person has the right to. No, another council member who was present said it wasn't necessary, as there were engineers and the like whose expertise is relied on. Well, okay. But if council decides to proceed with the expansion of the sewer system based on the liquid waste management plan prepared by those engineers, shouldn't you be aware that the criteria outlined in the village bylaw requires amending, as it is outdated and based on current regulations and science? Before incurring a possible debt of $10 million as a taxpayer, I would hope someone would be asking this question. You know, when my husband and I met at 18 and 20, he'd been a diver in the Navy for several years. Just like in the movies, very few made it through training, and it was his dream job, but he gave it up when we got married. For those who really know us, I know you're wondering what was he thinking. But anyway, we always laugh and we refer to that period as time as those days when he was a hero. I would tell you this because I've been treasurer for 4 nonprofits in Kaslo, coordinated teas and the Christmas Light Up, initiated the CRA Community Volunteer Income Tax Program this last spring. And more often than not, you will find me washing dishes and or cleaning up following an event at the seniors hall. Perhaps positions not considered in line with the responsibility that comes with being a representative on the village council. But prior to the 2 businesses I had in the village, wouldn't it be nice new and used for 2 years, and tax-wise services for almost 8. I too had another life. I've researched and investigated everything from the underground economy of the salmon fishery on the west coast and the funneling of cash across the border from Canadian donors to an American TV evangelist. A gentleman named Bill Donaldson and I spearheaded a project directed to hobby farms in the Cariboo, along with another coping fictional businesses and their losses. I tell you this because if elected to council, I can't help but ask questions. When you vote November 5th or 15th, please select the best man or woman for the job. Please choose a body of diverse individuals with different educational backgrounds, experience, and abilities that you know will take care of your best interests. Above and after all the political talk is over, my father, a very wise man and respected man, taught me to always select the best person for the job, regardless if I like them or not, because he said, if you don't do it, if they can't do it, you'll end up doing the job for them. When it comes to business, there are always options available, but when it comes to elected officials, you will live with it for 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Louise DePate?
Good evening, everyone. It's Louise DePal. That's
Pardon me, sorry.
as in Chateauneuf DePal. Okay. Well, welcome everyone, and thanks for coming out again. This is a little nerve-wracking having 2 of these back-to-back and a third one coming up. So during the last election, I believe there was only one event. So this is precedent setting. But that's great. It's great to have change, and it's great to embrace change. And I believe that that's something that I'm really good at. I'm also really good at working collaboratively with people, working as a team member. And as a leader, I think some of you that were here, that were at the all members meeting at the school, probably heard me talk about working as a designer and conference manager for an international peace conference, where I had to work and design a conference where there was representation from 34 different countries. Now, you have to work collaboratively, let me tell you, because everybody has good ideas, as we do in the village, and everybody's idea is their priority. And what we have to learn to do is to look at those priorities and say, okay, they're all important, but we realistically can't deal with them all, and not all at once either. So you have to be considerate, and you have to think about the good of your whole community, not just what you want or what you need. Over the last few years, I've worked and I've volunteered for a number of organizations here in Kaslo that I'm really quite passionate about. The first one that I became involved with was the restoration of City Hall, and that was back in 2001 when I was going back and forth between 2 provinces. Came to meetings that were canceled, but I did make the effort and I made sure I was here. It was a good experience. And then the next project that I got involved with and really enjoyed was Communities in Bloom. I have a passion for gardening, for growing things, for things green, and this is the environment for it because of the long growing season. I'm also a scrounger. My background, I have a CFRE, which is a Certified Fundraising Executive. So I do fund development, I do strategic planning, I've done a lot of those kinds of things. But one of the things I know how to do is I know how to ask. And I know how to ask for gifts. When it was time to work for the Communities in Bloom group, I noticed that there were some old garbage cans up at there were concrete ones that were up at the village yards. And I went, let's repurpose them. Let's make them into planters. Why spend money for more? You know, let's use what we have. And we have a lot of incredible resources here that we should be using and we can use. Over the last 2 years, I've worked with the Chamber. I was on the board of the Chamber. And again, I'm really good at asking. I was able to work with our neighbor, Bill Hayward, sorry about that, Bill. Anyway, I realized that there was a spot next door to my flower shop. And it looked like a really good place for us to have an office. So I started on with him, and I said, Bill, can we have that spot? Well, yeah, 500 a month, no, too much. 400, no, Bill, that's just too much, we can't afford it. 300, no. Finally, we were going for coffee at Bluebell, and he came up to me and he said, 200. I said, Bill, we can't afford it, that's every month. He finally came up to me and said, free. Yes, got it. And we got it. And since then, not only do we have the spot, but people have donated furniture and lumber and free labor, office equipment. And that's something I'm really good at, is asking, we all ask. So 1 minute? Anyway, why do I want to run for council? I want to run for council because I'm passionate, I'm committed, and I'm honest. I can't make promises that I can't, I can't follow up on, and I'll do the very best I can. But what I can promise you is that I will respect, if I am elected, whoever is going to sit at that table with me. And I will listen to what they have to say, and sometimes I'll agree and sometimes I'll disagree. But if I disagree, I'll have a reason behind my rationale. I do research, I try to be as thorough as possible. I'll make mistakes, I'll admit I make mistakes, but I will do the best I can for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Dustin East.
Good evening, everybody. I'm so happy this is happening. Thank you to the hotel and all of you for being here and caring, fellow councillor-elects, mayor. So I decided to make my speech into 3 parts. The first part, just sort of who's Dustin, what's my education, why am I maybe qualified to do this position. Second, sort of a vision that I would like to see happen in Kaslo and things that I'm doing and that I could see happening. And then third, if there's time, talk about some issues that I've heard about in the past, and then maybe talk about some things that I'd like to see going forward. So my name is Dustin. I grew up in Saskatchewan, lived in Regina, went to the University of Regina, got a sort of marketing degree, business administration, studied a lot of linguistic classes, Mandarin, ended up living in Taiwan for a couple of years, doing that, teaching English, came back. My aunt and uncle moved to Castlegar when I was younger, and they, lived by the ski hill, so we used to go and ski there a lot, and I fell in love with just essentially skiing. The Kootenays in general, decided to buy some property, moved to Revelstoke, worked as a financial consultant, moved to Retallick, where we have this little place, moved to Nelson. In this time, I ended up working for the city of Revelstoke for about 1.5 years, in the city of Kaslo, or the city of Nelson for about 2.5 years, doing tangible capital assets plans, logistics planning, working through public works, photocopying agendas, and that time became good friends with mayor's councillors, which just allowed me to see what this job is. And I think the most exciting part about what this job is that it is potential to actually do something in your community in terms of the levels of municipal government. So that's me. Now I live here, have my beautiful Christine somewhere, and in Kaslo. Now that I'm here, I'm doing a project called the Project Comeback, which essentially interviewed a bunch of everybody, figured out what was a barrier for our youth to be able to live here. Then issues started to arise, not so surprisingly, things like housing, cost of living, food, jobs, these types of things. So I started to delve in and figure out what these are. Then education was a big one, so we opened a little school up in Johnson's Landing this summer. Then one of the things I wanted to focus on was helping our young people mentor people and helping businesses succession plan. And then we found something called the Business Retention and Expansion Project, which is another survey where we're surveying 80 businesses, 2 hours apiece, collecting a lot of information to essentially help us make more money as a community, be more abundant, help each other. There's these tourism alliances going on, just an idea upon ideas. A lot of communities have done these surveys and seen these little lunch and learns. Whatever develops is always good. I also believe in applying for funding. CBT is awesome. They gave us money to do this project, and the village is helping, and Selkirk College, and everyone's like really partnering together, the chamber of course, and this Kootenay Tourism Alliance. It's just really beautiful to see what's happening, and so many people actually being excited and taking action and creating art space in our community. And really what I think our community needs is creativity and innovation. We have wood, we have water, we have resources, we have things, we have people, we have brains, we have all these knowledge in our community, and I think by applying that and using it together, people like the Kaslo Institute, and working with them, bringing it all together. In terms of issues that I've heard about, things like the airport, things like the waterfront, things like the Allen subdivision, my theory is on these types of things, I learn as much information as possible. I find out every detail. Is it going to serve our community? Is it going to be an asset for our community, or is it going to be a liability? If it's going to provide sort of revenue, we are a corporation of the city of Kaslo, if I'm not mistaken, where our job is to make money not just from taxpayers. So we can find other ways. It would be ideal. Well, that's about it. I guess we'll have a chance for questions. I put some stuff over there, some pictures of me and my family a little bit. My brother lives here too, and we do some off-grid electrical stuff. Micro hydro, that's another big thing. Just find ways to add value to our community that make money, make people want to be here, and essentially be a model for what can be created in Canada, in BC, and just show people. That's what Project Comeback has become. Other communities are now looking at what we're doing with yoga studios and things. Thank you so much. Have a beautiful night.
Thank you. Romela Glorioso.
First of all, thank you all for coming tonight. It's a great opportunity for all of us to be heard and to hear you, especially after the first round at JVH last Thursday. I'll try not to fully repeat what I said at that meeting, but focus on some important issues raised that night. And please, read my campaign flyer or the transcript of my main points available at the Elect Glorioso table over there. As Michael Young mentioned, my name is Romela Glorioso. My family and I are living here and working here in Kaslo since 2008. My son graduated from our high school this past June and is now beginning university. Many of you may ask, what am I bringing to the table? My first job was an underground gold mining geologist in the Philippine Mountains. That was 1985, and I was the first female geologist hired by the Vulcan Industrial Mining Corporation. In hindsight, it was a radical decision by the company to hire a woman, as women were and still are considered to be bad luck in underground mining operations. So you can imagine the difficult situation I was in. However, from that experience, I learned how important it is to listen to other people's opinion and experiences, especially people who see the world differently than I do. So, I don't take offense at Councillor Lang's negative comments about Masters and PhDs in our first round at the Lighthouse Theatre. In his opinion, if young people want to live in Kaslo, they must learn a trade in order to survive. Currently, I am helping a young woman graduating this year from JVH to find scholarships. Her family is very supportive and excited for her because she would be the first one in her family to go to university. Like a number of people who grew up in Kaslo, went to university, and wish to come back to live in Kaslo, should I tell this young woman to change her dream because after university there is no place for her in Kaslo? Tradespeople are, of course, a vital part of any community, not just Kaslo. But our community, in common with so many rural communities in the Mountain West, is not the rural place it was 30, 20, or 10 years ago. We heard Councillor Holland talk about our population being constant, around 1,000 people since he moved here in the 70s. But he needs to recognize it's not the same 1,000 people. We're getting much older. In 2011 census, 30% of our population was 60 years old and above. The number of school-age children has considerably dropped, and the population of working-age group has also gone down. In addition, our economy is relying much more on tourism. Kaslo itself is not the same place as it was. For example, climate change is changing our environment. Studies conducted by the Columbia Basin Trust shows that the trees in higher elevation are the most vulnerable and first ones to die in a warming climate. This means more erosion and silt going into the Guti Lake, decreasing our water quality with more violent storms, flooding, and landslides, loss of income from forestry, and a loss of our natural beauty. We can affect the outcomes of these forces, but first, these changes must be clearly recognized, understood, and taken into account by our village council.
1 minute.
Sticking our heads in the sand like ostriches leaves us victims of worse outcomes. Therefore, it's very important that we diversify our economy. We need to combine our natural resources economy and its culture with a new amenity economy and its culture. By amenity economy, I mean tourists, second home owners, retirees who move here, and the new information economy. But we cannot depend on any one of these alone, especially not on tourism. In my work, I've seen that depending too much on tourism has destroyed the quality of life of many small towns and villages.
10 seconds.
If you elect me, I will bring both my knowledge and experience to help Kaslo to protect the best of the past while carefully guiding us into the future. Thank you.
Time. Thank you very much. Jenny Holland.
Good evening. Maybe I could just, if you'd indulge me, I wouldn't mind sort of knowing who was here or at the meeting at the high school. Just a real quick show of hands. Okay, thank you. That helps a little bit. I'm running for council. I just finished doing a full term, 3-year term. Before that, previous to that, I wasn't on council. I was defeated by Mayor Lay at the last election before that. I did go ahead and participate in supporting my community, though I was with the OCP committee and helped get our OCP going. That was a big project that came from the time when I was mayor previous to that. Before that, I was a councilor for 2 years, got in on a by-election. So what's happened, I guess, is my experience level around what I've been doing in Kaslo is I've blossomed. And it's very much a credit to the community as much as to me. I have my own personal assets and strengths, but the community has really created an environment where we have the high capacity to realize ourselves a lot in this community. That's a fantastic thing. And that's a credit to the people that have moved here. It's a certain type of folks that end up in the Cooties. I don't think any of us have moved here to get rich or have the big giant job. We came here for the lifestyle. And that lifestyle is something that we want to be sure to protect and keep that as a priority of what we do when we move forward with all our planning. Because planning is extremely important. What has come out of my being in local government is understanding how important it is to make sure that the quality of life is right and people are able to still come here. Right now I have 3 children. The youngest is 20. Well, he's turning 20 in about a week. Right now he's in Nepal building life experiences that he'll be able to bring back here. Pretty excited for him on that. My 2 older children, Chloe is my daughter, is 32, and my son, Jaden, is 34. Both those kids, all 3 of the kids want to live here. And my 2 older kids are in the loop, going around. They come here, they're here a little bit. Sometimes they're on my couch, sometimes they're not. They're struggling. So what it takes to keep our community vibrant, I know, is going to be attracting youth and being able to make options for youth to be able to stay here. So that issue is near and dear close to my heart. I spend a lot of time thinking about it, and it's right in my family, and I think it's really important for us. So what I can bring is not necessarily so much my opinions or my personal slants, but it's what is right and what feels right for me for this community. So that's an issue that as things go across, whether it be planning OCPs or working on developments or what we do for community around taxes, all those issues, part of the lens I'm looking through when I do that is for my own family, around what makes it possible for my kids to be here. So that's a really important issue, and it's sort of under that big lofty ideal that I'm getting a little tired of saying sustainable economic development, but that's part of what is in hiding inside that statement. There's tons inside that statement. Most of you probably are aware that back in 1993 I started the Jazz Festival, and I had not a clue what I was getting into, or I wouldn't have done it. And now it's turned into something that's actually now it forms part of the identity of the community, which is not a credit to me at all. It's a credit to the people who volunteer to make it happen. I don't know if you guys seen the little video on YouTube. Check it out sometime about leadership. It shows one guy getting out dancing in the festival, acting crazy, and he's just a lone nut. And they call him the lone nut. Suddenly 2 other people go out there to join him. Now you got 3 people out there dancing. And then 2 more people join. At that point, there's a critical mass that happens where suddenly the guy is not a lone nut anymore. He's a leader. The only reason he's a leader is because the other people that come behind him and see a good idea and work towards that idea, and together they have a synergy that goes beyond it. At the end of the video, it ends up everybody's dancing and 2 or 3 people are sitting on the ground and they're the lone nuts. So it's not necessarily the person that comes up with an idea that makes something happen. It's the 2 or 3 or 4 that follow after. Those are the real heroes. Those are the people that make the communities. So if us as your leaders, we get to be up here and we get to kind of maybe bring up some good ideas, it's you guys that buy into it to make it happen, and you're the heroes. And you're here tonight being heroes. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. Vote on November 15th.
Thank you very much. Kelly Noel?
Well, I have to admit, after getting to meet these candidates over the last couple of weeks, learning about their skills and qualifications, I felt a little scared, probably a little, for sure, a little inadequate. I mean, I don't have the typical skills a counselor might hold, you know. I'm not a town planner, I'm not an accountant. I don't have much knowledge on water systems or sewer systems. It made me really think, what do I bring to the table? What do I have? I guess one thing I have is a younger set of eyes. I see Kaslo through the eyes of someone submersed in parenthood, submersed in debt, trying to balance finances while at the same time make a living. Some ways I guess I might represent the young families in this town. I guess I bring a natural gift for listening. I'm trained in nonviolent communication, which sort of gives me that ability to pick the substance out of what's being said. And most of all, I have pretty good skills in making decisions. You know, I base my decisions on logic, especially if it's important decisions. I like to get as much information as possible. I also, I like backup plans. Dad said, make backup plans, Kelly. I hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And the other thing is, when you make conscious decisions like that, even if it's the wrong one, at least you can say, I did my best, and I can stand by that. If elected into council, a few of the things I'd like to work on is, for one, help build on our tourism industry. I feel that's the backbone of the West Kootenays. You know, that's promoting Kaslo, maybe the airport, these sort of things. Build on the internet. Internet is hugely important to us rural people here. Balance out these taxes. I keep hearing about taxes, especially the high taxes the commercial businesses are paying in this town. It's a really hard hard sell. And these people aren't making, you know, $500,000, $600,000 a year. They're just like you and I, getting by on those low wages, probably lower than most of us. It takes a lot of years to make profit in business, and maybe there should be some incentives there. And the other thing I'm into is low-cost housing, especially rental properties. I think it's just a necessity. We are a service sector. We need to make accommodation for these young people coming here to live. I'm Kelly Noel. I'm running for council, and I'm honored to run for council. And I hope you can find it in your hearts to vote for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rob Lang.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming tonight. Happy to see such a good turnout here. My name's Rob Lang. I'm running for my second term on council. Prior to that, I was for 18 years I was public works foreman, and 3 years with the RDCK in the Environmental Services Department. I've sat on a number of boards in town, the golf club, curling club, minor hockey, and I also have a small home-based business called Lenco Environmental Services. I've been married for 28 years. I'm a father and a grandfather, and I'm a Kaslo resident for 34 years. So I've been around this town for a while, and very, very happy to have raised a family here, and proud of our community. Over the last 3 years, council made some significant gains, strides, not the least of which was the fine paving of Water Street, the construction of a new fire hall, badly needed fire hall, or emergency services center, whatever you want to refer to it as. And now, once again, we've started in another phase of the village hall restoration with the painting and the windows being repaired. So these are all real positive things that council was able to accomplish in the last 3 years. But probably the biggest improvement, and the one that maybe the fewest people know about, is the financial accountability that now exists at City Hall. Under the guidance of our new CAO, we've gone into the books, we've discovered the discrepancies, we've moved to rectify them, and going ahead, we expect things to flow a lot better in terms of how your finances are handled. So this was a huge turnaround for our community. If I'm re-elected, I would support upgrades to the water treatment plant. I would work at reducing costs for the sewer users. I realize our bylaws need to be restructured in order to do that. That's not a problem. Neil Smith is very good at writing bylaws. It seems like we have a new one to vote on just about at every meeting. We need to develop a waterfront maintenance plan. A lot of people have identified the bay as, well, they refer to it as an eyesore, and basically that's what it's getting to be. And we need to address those issues. I would continue to work on improvements at the airport, work on developing more joint ventures with the RDCK, and work for a better team environment on council and in the community. Lately, just in the last few weeks, our nonprofit organizations have come under attack from various segments of the community. And they are the lifeblood of our community. These organizations need to be nurtured. Whether it's the Langham, the Trail Builders, Cooney Lake Historical Society, or any of our recreational facilities, there's countless hundreds of volunteer hours go into keeping these organizations running. We need to nurture them. We need to treat them with respect. So I really appreciate your vote on November 15th, but at least if you're not going to vote for me, get out and vote. That's the main thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. So that is the council candidates that are here this evening. And so now what we would like to do is to take 2 questions. I am asking that you make these questions suitable for all of the candidates to have a response, and then we'll go on to listening to the mayoral candidates. So, is there a question? Can I pass the microphone, please?
Sure. I think you guys can hear me okay. Can you guys hear me? I think I'll be okay. Thank you. Yeah, my name's Dave Russell. I'm a pilot and professional engineer, and I have property in Kaslo. My question is about the concerning the airport, and I believe the council is close to or contemplating signing a deal with a for-profit private corporation called the Kaslo Community Airport Management Corporation. I'm going to call it CAMCO for brevity. Councillor Lang at the last meeting indicated that this arrangement would be tax neutral for the village. I think we need a lot more information than that. I've tried to find a CAMCO corporate information on the web. It is not there.
Excuse me?
There is no business plan.
Excuse me, please.
Yes, and there is no
I would like you to
contract.
ask your question.
Okay. I would like to hear the candidate's position on my opinion, and furthermore, what they plan to do to address the transparency issue going forward. Specifically, if they support the critical documents like the business plan, the contract between the village and the corporation, and the CAMCO corporate information will be made available to the public long before there is a decision made.
Thank you.
Will you make those documents available?
Thank you.
Thank you.
The question I would like to have pass this along then to all of the council members, and I'm sorry that the mayoral candidates can't answer that question. It may come up again. We'll just have to take that chance. But we will start then with John Addison, please.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I actually have been involved in this Kaslo Airport Corporation and the forming of it, and have been involved in the development of the strategic plan. So we've taken that strategic plan and we've taken to the village for their view, but to be able to finish up our and move towards a business plan, we need to get this agreement with the village, which we're really hoping to have. So I think that's essentially it. I'm very supportive of the airport. Although not a pilot myself, I can see the advantages moving towards having the airport upgraded and making it safe and secure. Thank you.
There wasn't the question.
Sorry, but when you're saying the management company, assume it's something the company that wants to take over the management of the airport, separate from the village, just like, say, for example, we have a manager that's taken over the running of the campground. But I think any contracts and that should be public knowledge. I haven't seen it. I've just heard about the thing specifically in it, but I understand there's going to be a meeting, the committee of the whole on Tuesday, which of course many of us will be in attendance to find out exactly what's contained in that contract.
You know, it's very hard for me to comment on this because I'm just not knowledgeable enough, but I am interested enough to find out. If a business plan isn't fully developed, why would you release it before it is? I think documents should be at a final stage, not in a draft stage before they're released. Transparency and accountability are essential. And, but the fact is that I don't know enough about this issue, these documents, and if they're not fully developed, how can you ask for their release? I'm not quite sure what you're asking for. But your question was a little bit vague to me, and if you could be more specific, maybe I could be more helpful. I'm sorry.
Dustin East.
So I look at everything sort of from a process point of view and what could be brought to the table, what would be the best sort of to do what Kelly said, get the most information as possible. From what I know, we have a committee of the whole meeting, And as a counselor, I would simply suggest that would be, can you give us a presentation on your business plan and what your projections are, whether it's finished or not. What are you thinking? What are your plans? Give us information so that we can make a good decision, and the contract will come eventually, and there'll be a cost associated with that. And if it works well for the village and supports our missions and what we're doing, then of course we approve an airport, but it has to, the information, I agree, should be there in place so that we can move forward. And business planning isn't that tough these days. You just put the numbers down. So that's how I feel.
Yes, Ramela, please, Glorioso.
My number one campaign platform is to have accountable and fiscally responsible government, and to encourage the public in decision making. I have attended council meetings before regarding airport development, and the last time I attended a meeting is, I thought the council directed the CAO to formalize a volunteer group that will look into the economic feasibility of the airport. And I thought it was a volunteer group and it's not for-profit corporation. This is the first time I heard that it is a for-profit. And the public should know about it. If I'm elected, I don't think I would have agreed not to release any information about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Jimmy Holland?
So sometimes when the municipalities enter into situations where potentially there's going to be a contract or making some relatively complex arrangements, there's this awkward time. Is actually where council's sitting right now. Council at a committee, the whole meeting, had received a draft proposal of a contract for management services at the airport, and we've only seen the draft. The draft was handed up to us, and we're supposed to be studying that now and go back to the next committee of the whole. I believe it's a public document now. You might be able to go to the village hall and get a copy of it. I don't believe any of the councilors up here to be overly enthusiastic about receiving that, because it's something that we're just studying, we're just getting our first read on it. So it's really hard to address or get into specifics, but I know that I can assure you that I would be pushing very ardently that the document be publicly available, and I'm sure at the next committee whole meeting it would be publicly available there. And there's some fairly significant developments going on around the arrangements at the airport and the management plan. So if you're even marginally interested in that, please, on my little table back there, after this, I'll put a little piece of paper there that says airport on it. You give me your email, and I'll make sure that things that come out of that, you'll be flagged. You stick your hand up, we'll make sure that you get really specific information in that. Because a lot of people aren't interested in all the issues, and sometimes we don't know if we're wasting our time or not, but if you want to do that, I'll make sure that you get the latest news on developments on that.
Kelly, no?
Well, I can say I don't have a lot of experience with the airport. I have 4 airport development to some degree. Again, like I said on Thursday nights, any major decisions, designs that have to do with the town and the impact on the town, I think, I like plebiscites. I like the word plebiscite. You know, it's like, the public just needs to be brought up on it. Yeah, that's my opinion. Thanks.
Broadway?
Yeah, just to further to Councillor Holland's comments, the document was tabled at the last regular council meeting, so it is available to the public now. It was drafted by the CAO, Neil Smith, and it contains numerous clauses that protect the village. Basically, The document, it was taken from an operations document from similar sized airports around the province. So there's nothing, we didn't reinvent the wheel here, we just basically plagiarized an agreement that already exists. The main focus up at the airport has been to make it more user-friendly, to do something about security aspects and try to get a group of volunteers, not paid staff, a group of volunteers to step forward and come up with a business plan, an annual budget, and present it to council. We can look at it, decide if it meets our criteria, and then go ahead and give them the green light. So the whole thing is, there's a process in here, and we're working through the process. But the document that you're referring to is available to the public. It is up for discussion in front of council, and it was drafted by a professional. So it's I don't know if I'd just characterize it as bulletproof, but it's a good starting point. So, like I say, we're trying to get this done. We've been at this for a couple of years now. We want it to work for everybody. We want to make everybody to be comfortable with what's going on up there. But at the end of the day, we want to make it a more user-friendly facility. Thank you.
Thank you. So now, is there somebody else that has a question, please? Yes, ma'am, right in the back.
I'm wondering what your position is on reinstating our 24/7 emergency services in Kaslo. Because there's been a lot of people in this town that have worked, and we feel like we're not being heard or listened to by IHA. So I just want to know where you stand and what you will do for us on that issue.
John Addison?
Okay, I'm supportive of the process that's already ongoing. The standing committee that is working with the IHA, Maggie Winters is leading that, and I'm supportive of the process that she has started and created. My wife works in the at the hospital there, and I know that this is very important to our community. So I'm very supportive. Thank you.
Linda Beddoe?
A long time ago, I was on the hospital board just prior to the amalgamation, and I remember at that time, the budget for the hospital, I think at that time was 1.2 million, and almost 800,000 of it was for wages. I was president of the auxiliary, so I understood why those ladies were knitting, crocheting, selling baked goods, because there was very little money left for the bandages and for running the hospital or the things that were really needed. Of course, I'm in favor of the 24/7 open, but I think it's a fight, and we'll all have to fight for that, just like they did for the extended care, going from 5-bed to the extended care facility. It didn't happen overnight. They kept pushing and pushing. But I think Mayor Lay said it at one council meeting, it makes sense that when tourists come into town and they see a sign there that says we're only open to 9 to 5, emergency care 9 to 5, they just drive on. If you have any medical issues, why would you stop for even overnight?
So, Louise DeBell?
I know that there has been such a valiant effort in our community and how much work has gone into our healthcare facility, and I know that we would prefer to have 24/7. It's been such a tough fight, but the thing is not to give up and to keep fighting and to keep supporting our leaders such as Maggie Winters and people that have put so much effort into this. The thing is not to back up and not to regress, and also to keep in communication with IHA. Through the chamber, we initiated the letter writing process. Was it futile? I don't think so. I think we did get some attention paid to us. And I remember when they came to visit at City Hall, and I went and stood behind the car and let them leave. And it was the middle of the night, I had a flashlight, and I was standing there by myself. And I feel very passionately about how important it is to have emergency services here in the community. And it's something that if I do get elected to council, that it would be one of my prime focuses.
Thank you.
To support that.
Denise?
So this issue is sort of a disaster. We lost our 24-hour emergency, which makes it tough for families. We all know it's sort of terrible. I always like to try to see a silver lining in things. One, I think it's great that we're doing everything we can to get it reinstated. In the meantime, I've heard rumors that Interior Health is looking to put money into preventative health care. So if, in my, the way I like to see it, I guess, would be like, well, sure, support acupuncture, yoga, dance, movement, health, like just teaching people how to have proper diets, that kind of thing. So focusing on what we can do. I like that new emergency center we created. More people are being trained as paramedics, emergency people that hopefully, if there was actually an emergency, we can actually take care of ourselves. So I'm a big promoter of education and knowledge. And in the meantime, until we get it back, let's just do what we can to take care of ourselves, because I think that's what we really need to do here. Anyways.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Romello? Glorioso?
Yes, I'm in favor. Especially if we want to grow our economy and attract younger people, 24/7 emergency care is critical. What I will do is explore other models that's working in other rural communities, like, for example, New Denver. New Denver is in a fee-for-service model, and they have 2 permanent doctors or full-time doctors and 1 locum. And New Denver has less population than Kaslo, but it's working. And they have 24/7 emergency care that is working. That is a model that I would like to explore if I'm elected as village councillor. Thank you.
Thank you. Ginny Lawrence?
Yeah, 24/7 healthcare is critical. One of my children is a little bit more accident prone than the other two. And on a couple occasions, I don't think she'd be with us anymore if it had been to the emergency room there on 2 occasions. But I have been to the meetings with IHA, the Minister of Health, and we've sat at a table just like this. Mayor, I believe Susan was there, Councilor Lane was there, and Dr. Hal Penny is one that's basically calling the shots or delivering the shots anyway, what's coming. He leaned forward on his elbows and he looked us all square in the eye, real plainly, said there will be no 24/7 emergency room in Kaslo. So I don't know exactly how you deal with that. I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing that we maintain hope for that or we keep the pressure on for that. But I also think it'd be very important for us to try to look at alternative ways to get the kind of service we need without them necessarily having to go through some kind of language around what it means to have a full-time emergency room. It has to do with classifications and the amount of equipment and facilities. It's a very complicated issue. What we want to know is that at 2 o'clock in the morning when our kids get sick, that they're going to be taken care of here. Now, whether that means we get to say we have 24/7 health care, or we have a doctor that's going to show up, or a nurse practitioner, or paramedics in our hospital, or in our ambulances, or whatever it is, there's different models. So what I want to carefully encourage you is not to dissuade you from going after the 24/7, but let's be sure and put just as much effort into other aspects of healthcare that achieve what we wanted in the end result, and that is that we're taken care of. And if you want to call it an emergency room, great. I don't care what you call it. I just know what we need, and there's other ways to do that. We've got the link that can happen through the broadband interconnection, where there's going to be a doctor in Kelowna. Basically, what we've kind of heard is we are remote, and it's a hell of a lot of pressure to put on any doctor to expect that at any moment they're not able to have a glass of wine or have a life because they're going to get a call at some. So it has to do with getting the right number of doctors And I would say there's a couple things we can work on. We want to work on these programs where we get paramedics in our ambulances. So basically you got a rolling ER. We want to work on getting more doctors in the community, because personally, I believe if we get 3 or 4 doctors in this community and they've got patients that they care about, you guys, and something happens to you in the middle of the night, they're not going to leave you short. They're going to take care of you. But 1 or 2 of them can't do it. There's no more Dr. Olsons. Thank you.
Kelly, no?
Yeah, I've got a good friend in this town who I consider to be a brilliant businessman, developer, just overall amazing person. He told me over 5 years ago that Caslo's going to lose its hospital. And I said, why? Why would you say that? He said, like I said on Thursday, the political will to progress, to develop, to show IH, to show the rest of the province that we're here to stay and we're here to progress, isn't in Caslo. Now, here we are today. And he rubs that in my nose every time I see him, actually. I just want to say that I will be part of the political will to change that, to bring healthcare back in some form or another. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Roland? Yeah, the village council formed a select committee on health services. It was chaired by Director Shadrack, and Mayor Lay was an integral part of that too, and Maggie Winters, of course. And they worked tirelessly. I mean, I was an alternate on that committee, so I didn't get to sit in on all the meetings, but I can say for a fact that they were just tireless in their efforts to keep the hospital from basically falling apart. And I think about a year ago, we sort of hit bottom in that we had no doctors under contract. And we were being told that doctors wouldn't move here because they weren't interested in what we had to offer. They weren't interested in being on call 24/7. This was didn't fit with the model of the most recent graduates from medical schools. This is not what they were looking for. Now here we are a year later, and we've got some doctors on contract. Mind you, they're only working 9 to 5, but that could change as they get to know the community and like the community and put down roots here. I think we could gradually move back into where there is 24/7 coverage. Having said that, I think we all need to recognize that the Caslo Hospital is limited in what it can treat you for. And if I'm 65, if I have a heart attack, I want to be in an ambulance and I want to be on my way to Nelson, and that's all there is to it. Or up to the airport and in a helicopter heading for Kelowna, because I want to go where the equipment is and the people are trained to deal with those sort of situations. So I think one of the keys to having better health care in this community is making sure our ambulances are staffed properly with qualified individuals, and there's enough ambulances and they're available when we need them. So when you get these life-threatening situations, that they're there to respond and they can direct you to the best possible service.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. A little round of applause for all of these people. So now we'll move to the mayoral candidates, and there are 3, and we're going to have a 5-minute talk from each, and then again followed by 2 questions from the floor. And the first mayoral candidate is Susan Hewitt.
Well, I'm going to stand up tonight because I was told by a few people that they couldn't see me on Thursday night. It could be because I'm short. A lot of you I do know, and you will know me, but for those who don't, I'll give you a brief rundown on myself. I've been here for 35 years, and when I moved here to marry my husband, who is part of a 4th-generation family in Caslo. We have 3 children, which we raised in Caslo, and they've all gone off to bigger and better things. but I do have one of them coming back, and Linda did make mention of that the other night. Thanks for the shout out there, Linda. And also, I wanted to give a little shout out to our youth at the back of the room. It was great of you to come in and to be involved with this. So over the years that I've been in Kaslo, I've volunteered for numerous volunteer organizations, starting with daycare, scouting, minor hockey, whatever the kids were involved in. I moved through those processes with them, and at times, it was very difficult to get volunteers, and I gave of my time freely, and at times I was on many committees. I was out the door just about every night, and my husband had to deal with the kids. But that's what we do. So there's a lot of very talented people up at the table here, and I'd be proud to serve with any one of them. And I feel that I would have the ability to work with any one of the councillors that's here. All it takes is the will for us all to cooperate. We don't all have to agree all the time. This is a democratic society that we live in. So we've just got to talk to each other, respect each other, listen to each other's points of view, because yours isn't the only opinion, and you may change your opinion on an issue after you've listened to what everyone has to say. And, there are times that we need to consult the community to see what's best, what they feel is best for them. We're only 5 people sitting around a table, and sometimes we do need the community to weigh in on issues. So I share a lot of the same issues that that the people who've already spoken have. Healthcare is definitely important to us, and protection of our waterfront. That's a great thing, and one of my platforms is maintaining the village assets that we already have. Don't acquire new ones, which when we are having trouble maintaining the ones we have. Let's get them looked after, get a program in place, and then, the rest of it will flow. We can, get that going. And I understand there are concerns with higher taxes. And, Mayor Lee had done some research that we're fairly low, and maybe you said even the lowest in BC. And, people do have concerns over the level of their taxation. But on the other hand, people want the services that the village does provide. They want the garbage pickup. They want the streets plowed. If we want lower taxes, sometimes it does mean reduction in services. So we have to weigh one thing over the other. So one of the things that I would like to pursue is completion of the liquid waste management plan, both phases 2 and 3. We've got 1 in place, and get 2 and 3 done, and then start on an incremental build out of the sewer system. So it's not all at one time. Do it right the first time, and move forward from there. And so like I said, we need to work together as a group, whoever is elected, and I would make a commitment to do that, work with my council and lead them, and hopefully we would all have a productive 4 years. And thanks everybody.
Thank you very much. Greg Lay?
Well, you probably all see me wearing my Get Her Done hat. And the last election I said what we wanted to do was significantly improve the village administration, improve parking issues in downtown Kaslo, complete the public boat launch ramp, major improvements on Water Street, completion of Kaslo and Area Emergency Services Center, and develop a business plan for the Kaslo Airport. So I think I gave the voters some concrete things that I thought I could get done at the end of 3 years. We're now coming up on a new election round here. And I want to share with you, and I know this is boring as hell, bylaw number 117. bylaw number 1151, and there's two parts to it. And I know that the last thing you want to do is sit down and go onto the village website and roam around and figure out, 1,150 bylaws? We're going to try and show it. But anyway, what I want to share with you tonight, and I think most of you know me, I've been around here for 35 years, raised 5 children here, and I can't see that many people out in the audience that I can't say or hold as a friend. Anyway.
1 minute.
Okay, over the next 5 years, the village has the following objectives and policies: to actively seek grants for major infrastructure repairs and replacement, to modernize and improve financial management analysis and reporting, to annually review utility rates to ensure water and sewer operating and delivering costs are fully funded, to complete the implementation of water conservation measures and the securing of a dependable secondary water supply, to review the village's land and lease portions with respect to potential income generation. I'll leave it at that, seeing as I'm short of time here. But I would really suggest you go to Schedule B of this bylaw, and I am committed to working with the council to try and get these things done or moved along as far as we can in my next term as the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Patrick Michael?
Great, thanks. I've got a handout here, and you'll see that I've been around and I've served on various committees. But what I hear a lot of is kind of like history repeats itself. And really what I see us is we're just the caretakers. You know, we've talked about the hospital, the economy, resources, tourism, education. But all these issues have come out in the past. Around 1910, K&S Railroad was shut down because it wasn't economical. And the town fathers of the day lobbied the CPR and eventually got it back. And today, you know, we're still talking about, we're in a bit of a recession here. Downtown is suffering a bit. Well, history repeats itself. You know, about 30 years ago, Jack Morris always used to say he wanted to turn this into a retirement center. Well, now we are a retirement center. Now what we're hearing is we want young people. History repeats itself. Roy Green, he was instrumental in keeping the city hall there. They wanted to tear it down and build a modern building. This was in the early 50s. He spoke up. It wasn't torn down, it's still there. What we have is public assets. You know, we've got the Moynier City Hall, golf course, the arena. They're all non-profit. And you can look at the books anytime. We're caretakers. That's what we are. We're taking care of this. The KDCS, I've been on various boards around town. I'm currently on Abbey Manor. I was on the KDC committee, Kaslo District Community Forest Society. And when I got on, the first thing to my surprise, they were going to shut it down. Close down the office, close down the bank account, lay off the staff, and send it to Nelson, to a private corporation, a for-profit private corporation. I spoke out against it. It didn't happen. Susan Hugh was there. She would know. She was on the board of directors at the time. This building, we wouldn't be here. I was on the Legion. There was a motion to sell off the land and tear down this building. I spoke up. It's still here. Now we got the airport. That's a public asset. It belongs to the people of Kaslo. The current council wants to hand it over to a for-profit private corporation. I disagree because if I look at all these public assets and they're gone, how do you get them back? For instance, if in the community forest, a corporation in Nelson controlled the community forest, how do you get that back if they go bankrupt or another company buys it? And if that had happened and the community forest in Nelson was in Nelson, owned by a private corporation, how many people from Kaslo would be working there today? It may be possible that there'd be nobody here working there because it would be a private corporation and you're not allowed to look at their books. So I think we are caretakers is what I'm getting at. And I think history repeats itself. And I think the council that you get is taking care of the assets for the people, not selling them off or handing them over. If you hand them over, get into a non-profit organization, something that's going to keep it here. Because once it's gone, it won't come back. The money is still there because Tommy Baba You know, he knew how to create a windlass to get it up there. You know, I worked with him down Teenage Sawmill. He was a Japanese guy. Nobody gave him any credit for bringing it up there. He says, I brought it up there. That's what Tommy said. But I used to work for Kurt Thomas, you know, and he says, well, I brought it up there. And everybody else says, well, I brought it up there. I look at the guy who does the work. It was Tommy Baba. He did the work. He brought it up there.
1 minute.
So, really, I think what we need is public engagement. We're just caretakers. We're only going to be here for 4 years. So, do you want more of the same, or do you want some change? And I guess I just have one question to ask of all candidates. How many of the candidates are on the board of that Kaslo Airport committee, corporation? If there's anybody here, I just would like to know. Because all these boards and committees I've been on, nobody can ever accuse me of personal gain. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now we'll take 2 questions, please, for the mayoral candidates. Yes, okay, thank you. Yes.
Particularly from Mr. Lade, he was making comments about quite a few projects up and coming. And, you know, we've had some projects more recently here, the Village Hall Restoration and Front Street and what have you. And I understand that I don't know everything because I wasn't at all the meetings, that sort of thing. However, what I would like to know is what processes can the council put in place to ensure that more local people get the work? Because I don't know if it's simply a cost thing, if it's a quality thing, or if it's a time-sensitive thing that maybe things aren't put out in time that local people have the opportunity, because there's plenty of good tradespeople here. And it just, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it really galls me when I go by and I see somebody who's not local working on something in our village.
Thank you very much. Now, can I please stay with the alphabetical order? Would the other 2 candidates like to respond to that? Suzanne?
It was for everybody.
So yes, we do, there is a public call out, and sometimes there isn't time to advertise them, but if there is, it definitely gets advertised on Civic Web is one of the areas that's used, and Pennywise, when time allows. It will be publicized that there's calls for tenders or expressions of interest if we're looking at doing a project, and all people can apply, whether they're local or, you know, Nelson is considered somewhat local. It depends what kind of skills are required at the time. And, you know, for the City Hall project, there were, you know, there are different phases. There's, you know, the electrical, there's, well, I don't know whether there was electrical this time, but painting and repointing of the brickwork. So there were locals who were approached as they had expressed interest previously when we were first trying to set up a budget for doing that work. And it did, some of it did come down to availability, because we've got some funders who've put money into it, but they've got strict deadlines, and some of the people couldn't get the work done within the time frame that was required. So in some cases we do have to go to companies that are outside of Kaslo, but we definitely would favor a Kaslo worker over an outside worker if they are similar, you know, they can perform the work that's required.
Thank you. Great.
On that issue, the institutional barrier is that any contract over $70,000, this is a provincial thing, must go to public tender. I disagree with that approach. What I learned in the regional district, there is a way to maybe break that into 2 contracts rather than 1 contract, you know, so that are you going to do it or not if you got the guts to do it? Bottom line here, I think Kaslo should have a list of, like the regional district does, of local people who can provide the services and they get first shot at it. You get away from advertising costs, a whole bunch of other, we have most of the talent here. So if I'm elected, I'd like to work on that, but I can tell you the institutional barrier is anything over $70,000 under the community charter must go to public tender.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you know, I'll just broaden a little bit. 20 years ago, if you wanted to pour some concrete, you just ran around, grabbed some guys, you could pour some concrete. You can't get anybody to do anything anymore. There's nobody here. You know, we're back to this history repeats itself. Everybody, you know, people used to say that, well, everybody wants to have work here, but you know, our fathers always used to have to go away and work and come back. It's a thing. That's the way it is. I went away and worked lots and came back here. I'd like to see more work available here, and if I'm on council, I would do my best to keep tenders awarded locally and work within the structures that are there. But we have to face it, you know, there aren't that many people here to do the jobs anymore, especially for larger projects. But I know that when Brian Beck did the hospital up there, somebody financed him, a personal friend financed him, so that he was able to bid on the job and take the job on, because he didn't have the resources to put up the bonds for the security and stuff like that. So there's lots of things that impact on local employment.
Thank you very much. So, is there a second question for the mayor candidates? Thank you. Next one out, please.
Okay. Last year, I counted 14 out of 18 businesses or properties for sale, either privately or publicly, on Front Street. I've been listening, as we all are. No one is speaking to the unspoken burden of the business community that makes it very difficult to actually prosper here on any level. I'd like to know, mayors, if you have any specific plans or are willing to make any specific commitments to support, specific ideas, what can be done to support the business community. By the way, there is also another note to consider with this question. There is a BC Stats website that actually shows you taxation levels by population demographics. Salmo is one of our nearest comparabilities. They have 1,120.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. You've made your question?
Almost. The business community in Kaslo pays 20-point-something% of the collectible tax burden. In Salmo, a most comparable community by population, the business community pays just over 11% of the collectible tax burden. I'm curious as to how you can help businesses stay in this community and prosper. That's my question.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Suzanne, please, first.
Well, that's a difficult one, really, to answer, because there are various reasons that businesses may be for sale. Perhaps owners are looking to retire and they aren't pursuing somebody younger to take them over. Maybe there was no longer demand for the service that they're providing. But if elected mayor, as I said the other night, in the last several years, been working to reduce the tax burden on the business community by reducing the multiplier. And perhaps assessments in Salmo or the population is similar, but you've got to look at the assessment rates. Like, how many dollars in assessments do we have residentially versus business, and the same with them. So we can't compare without knowing those figures. It's not fair to ask us to do that without the figures in front of us as to the distribution of the classes. But I would commit to continue to try and reduce the multiplier, thereby, reducing the amount of tax that is on the business community.
Thank you. Greg Lane?
Well, I'll go back to this bylaw, so I would suggest you look it up. And here's what it says. to review the distribution of taxation between different property tax classes. That's a bylaw. It was passed by council, and it needs to get done. I'll give you the numbers. You're right. Residential taxes here in Kaslo are 78.67. Dollar value of $383. That's what comes from residential taxpayers. The business and others, it's 19.57, but it's a 2.5 multiplier. And I give Councillor Hewitt credit for trying to reduce that. So when we look at it, is there room to reduce it? Well, when I look at light industry, it only brings in 13%. It only brought in $642 last year. When I look at the managed forest, we got zilch out of the managed forest. Major industry, we got zilch. So when I read these facts, when I read these figures, when I look at this bylaw, I believe the council will go through this exercise. I think there's a reasonable expectation that they will review the way in which we tax the businesses. And I hope they can identify economic opportunities to add to the revenue stream so we don't have to tax our residents so much.
Excuse me, but light industry was 0.13%, not 13.
I'm sorry, we can discuss this after. That's the purpose of the meeting after. So, Patrick Knuckle, please.
So what I hear is the business is suffering and you identify the tax rate. Well, when it comes to the town, there's really three ways for it to run: revenue and expense and efficiency. When I look at the village crew we got here with Glenn Walker, I'm pretty impressed with him, so I don't know how much more efficient we can get there. And if anything, I would keep the village crew working more because the guys are good. As far as revenue, the revenue that the village has is taxation or sell off your assets. I don't think we should, I think if we start putting our land on the market, it's just going to flood the market and the price of land could drop. So I'm not so sure if selling our land is the best way. So then we're dealing with our expenses, and we can always look at our expenses. And the taxation structure is within the powers of the council, and they can look at the taxation structure of the commercial businesses and reduce it. So that's within their powers.
Okay, well, thank you very much. Could I ask for a round of applause, please, for our three mayor candidates? So that brings to conclusion the sort of round table, and now the candidates will go to their own tables, and we'll ask you to go around and sit down and talk with them and question them and have discussions with your neighbors and friends. And that will go on until 9:30, and the time is now 8 o'clock, so we have an hour and a half to go to work on these people.